Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and happy 2026. An all new year is upon us, and already we've been getting some new news. As I've said before here, we got Kaiser Ghidorah, covered that in the last video, and since then we've also finally seen the colorized prototypes and promotional pictures for Haya's Mothra and Zuko set, taking the page straight out of Monster Arts. We've seen these prototypes before, unpainted. Now we're finally getting the confirmation that they are hitting. And yeah, so the year's already starting off with a bang. And something I like to do at the beginning of every year is kind of do a prediction, and by the end of the year, see how many things I have gotten right. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not. It's just more of a fun little game I like to do with myself. And just a brief rundown here. I'm not doing super obscure lines, there's nothing from CCP here. The stuff that's in this is Super 7, Monster Arts, Haya, Bandai Movie Monster Series, and Playmates. So I don't have anything from say Jada or X Plus, CCP, yada yada yada. It's just the basic, what most collectors go for. And since Kaiser Ghidorah is going to be acting as the freebie, he was actually on my original list prior to recording this. Kaiser Ghidorah is going to be the freebie spot, and we're just going to start with Monster Arts. The first Monster Arts I am somewhat expecting for 2026 is Mechagodzilla 2, 1975. This is the Mechagodzilla from Terra Mechagodzilla. They have just announced the Godzilla 75, so Mechagodzilla 75 to go with it seems like an obvious choice. And I think I should also mention before I get too far into this, when I say for 2026, I mean they will either be released in 2026 or they will be announced in 2026 for a release in 2027. So when I get to Haya, eventually all that stuff's not going to come out to 2027, 2028 regardless by the end of this year. So back to Monster Arts. With the Mechagodzilla, this is the furthest one out that I can really see happening, and that is Titanosaurus. They've been skipping over some of the anniversary monsters, Megalon didn't get one, of course, but Titanosaurus, I just got a feeling, I'm hoping I'm right, I would like to have a Titanosaurus, but if we don't get Titano and we'd say get Megalon instead or King Caesar, I would not be complaining regardless. But Titanosaurus, just because of the Terra Mechagodzilla anniversary, and that is a very beloved fan favorite movie, I could see them doing the whole cast of that movie the same way they did the whole cast of Godzilla vs. Gigan. And then sticking with anniversaries, Monster Arts, Rodan, show us. Specifically, I'm expecting 1956, the best Rodan. Yeah, I guess they could do 64 and 68, which are just downgrades of 56. And with Rodan's anniversary coming up, the 70th anniversary of the original movie, Rodan seems, as I said, just obvious choice. They could do, say, a Monsterverse reissue of Rodan, but considering that was packed with Mothra, and they're already doing a Mothra pack with Zuko, I don't really know how they could convince people to spend Monster Arts money on a Monster Arts Rodan at this point. Not without giving it a whole bunch of new accessories. Maybe even wings that could do the barrel roll, I don't know. The more I'm thinking about it, yeah, it'd be cool, but I just don't see Monster Arts doing it. So Rodan 56 takes the spot here for Monster Arts. Then we're going to switch on over to Haya. Haya is on a roll with their figures. They have been doing the classic ones, they've been doing the MonsterVerse ones, and sticking with the MonsterVerse first, I am expecting them to do a Mechagodzilla 21. We've been expecting this for years now. Hopefully we do get it this year, one way or another. They've already teased us now doing a final battle, Godzilla vs. Kong, with Kong with the skull or the head of Mechagodzilla after he tore it off. That's just a huge tease, man. Just give us the Mechagodzilla. So that's going on the bingo card. I'm also expecting or hopeful for a male Muto from Haya, just to go with the G14s they're doing. I think they would be easily able to do that. And then this is the final MonsterVerse Haya figure that I could see them doing, though I think it would be very obscure, probably the most obscure kaiju they would do, and that would be the Drowned Viper from Godzilla X Kong. They're doing the Warbat, they're doing Tiamat, so they're doing all these Serpentine Titans. The Drowned Viper had gotten a Playmates toy, so maybe it'll get a Haya. That's kind of going up there with a Monster Art Titanosaurus, where I'd love to see it happen, but if it doesn't, I don't really care. Going back to classic kaiju now with Haya, Godzilla 54. Everybody does a 1954 Godzilla. Eventually it's going to come, so it's just an easy prediction for anybody. Additionally, Haya Space Godzilla and Haya Destroya, throwing these two on here. They're doing a lot of the classic kaiju. They're really sticking with Heisei and Millennium, which is pretty much what Tamashii was doing for the longest time before they finally really digging into Showa. But 54 Godzilla, or not 54, but Space Godzilla and Destroya being two of the most iconic Heisei kaiju, they're coming eventually. Be it 2026 or later, we're going to see them at some point. Alright, now we're going to switch on over to Super 7. The first two, I am expecting repaints of Super Mechagodzilla and their upcoming KAIJU. Super Mechagodzilla was released a while ago. I will be very surprised if we don't see it come back in some way. They've already done a Golden Fun Mechagodzilla, and that color scheme, which was based on the 40th anniversary Mechagodzilla from Trendmasters way back in the day, that color scheme would look amazing on an actual Super Mechagodzilla figure. I would love to have it. It would be a stand-in for Cybersaurus with my Dark Horse Godzilla that I already have from Super 7. So yeah, give me that. And for a KAIJU repaint, there's a lot of different ways they could go. They could just do black, which is like what Bandai has done for the longest time. They could do a glow-in-the-dark one. They could do a black one with like Godzilla bone patterns on it, like kind of like the Karate Kid skeleton suits. A lot of different ways they could go about a KAIJU repaint. As for new Ultimate figures, definitely, just like I said, the Haya Godzilla 54. It's going to happen at some point. They're going to do an Ultimates 54. It's just a matter of time, so I'm throwing that on here. Additionally, I'm thinking they're going to stick with the Heisei King Ghidorah, most likely 1991. We're going to eventually see it. The fact we haven't already surprises me, but I'm pretty sure it's coming, along with a Super 7 Ultimates Fire Rodan, which would just go with, say, Mechagodzilla and such, and with King Ghidorah being an obviously more expensive figure, much like the Destroya was, I could see them doing Fire Rodan as a cheaper release just to kind of balance it out. And then, just to go with their Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla figures, I could see them doing a figure release for the Odo Island Godzilla from -1 and the Shin Godzilla forms, which would be like put in a pack just like the Monster Arts did. Very obvious choices to go with figures that have either been released or coming out in the case of Shin Godzilla. And getting away from the more collector-oriented, articulated figures like that, going into the reaction series, also from Super 7, I initially had 3 of these, but I dwindled it down to just 2, and those 2 are Gorosaurus and Varan. They are 2 of the main Showa Kaiju that have not been done yet for this line. I am waiting for them. The third one, which didn't make my card, is Gabara, if only because, well, he's Gabara. If we get Gabara, I'll be happy. If we get any of those 3, I'll be happy. But I'm expecting Gorosaurus and Varan at the very least. I'm hoping. Going on over to Playmates now, they've been going through and doing some of the older Titans from King of the Monsters, with Rodan getting one. Scylla's just got released from Godzilla X Kong. Hopefully they do a King of the Monsters repaint for that, which they probably will. And to go along with it, Playmates Behemoth, could definitely see that happening. And then also a Playmates Muto, maybe a Playmates Muto set with the male being much smaller and just packaged with the female. Sort of like how Suko and Doug were packaged together, even though I think Doug should have his own release at this point. But that's a whole different topic. But Playmates, Behemoth, and Muto would not surprise me. And then for the final figures in this little prediction bingo thing are Movie Monster Series figures. For Terra Mechagodzilla's anniversary, which was actually 2025 here, I won't be surprised if we see a headless Mechagodzilla show up on the Godzilla store. This, of course, being Mechagodzilla 2 after Godzilla tears his head off and he has that little electronic brain underneath. This gets some attention here and there in figures, but with them going through and doing 2.0s of figures and then also just doing a Mechagodzilla 74, I could see them going through and changing up the sculpt just a little bit to give us the headless form, much like how they changed up the Space Godzilla sculpt for that Super Godzilla release a while back, before dropping a whole 2.0 sculpt for Space Godzilla himself. And speaking of 2.0 sculpts, Godzilla 54 again. The sculpt that has been getting released for Movie Monster Series has been around for ages, and I mean absolute ages. It is due time 54 Godzilla got a new sculpt. Bandai Creations did one a while back in the early to mid 2000s, I think it was, and it was okay. It's still actually on a lot of the packages used on the classic toy line here in the West. But a new Movie Monster Series, Godzilla 54, is in dire need. And then I could also see them either reissuing or resculpting a Godzilla 62 from King Kong vs. Godzilla. They've been doing a lot of older Bandais for the, or not older Bandais, but older Godzillas for the Movie Monster Series line. And this could be a G-Store exclusive, it could be a wider release, it could be a stupid Bandai Premium for some reason, but a standard 6-inch Movie Monster Series Godzilla 62, I'm thinking we're going to see it announced this year. And finally, my more out there Movie Monster Series thought is a flying form Space Godzilla. We just got the flying form Destroya. They've been going through and doing a lot of different forms for different kaiju, and Space Godzilla's flying form doesn't have much representation when it comes to figures, so a flying form Space Godzilla seems like a shoo-in. And that is it. That's the whole 24 kaiju plus the free spot for Kaiser Ghidorah. And this here is the bingo card. And at the end of the year, I will simply take this, or even as the year goes around, or as the year goes along, I'll end up using this and just knock it off. And if I get a bingo, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, that's my predictions for 2026. If you disagree, you agree, or whatever, feel free to post your comments. And until next time, folks, peace out, and Minya, take it away. And again, Happy New Year!
Zilla says you should like and subscribe.